Why is inflation so high? What went wrong? And more importantly, what does this mean for the future of America's middle-class families? In this video, we'll not only uncover the real reasons behind today's crisis, but also share practical steps that families can take to cope with what's coming. Because while the system may be stacked against the middle class, there are still ways to prepare and protect yourself. Everywhere you look, prices are rising, debt is climbing, and paychecks feel smaller than ever. But this isn't just another temporary crisis. What we're living through today is the result of decades of choices. Choices that broke the link between money and value. Choices that pushed debt to record levels. And choices that now threaten the very stability of the US dollar. And if you're in the middle class, the storm is already on your doorstep. Let's go back for a moment. For most of America's history, the dollar was tied to gold. This meant that every dollar had real value behind it. Money couldn't just be printed without restraint. But in 1971, President Richard Nixon ended that system. He cut the dollar's link to gold, saying it was necessary to protect America's economy. What really happened? It gave the government freedom to print unlimited money. The results were immediate. Inflation in the 1970s shot into double digits, peaking above 13% in 1980, the highest in modern U.S. history. Since then, the dollar has lost more than 85% of its purchasing power. Think about that. A dollar today buys less than 15 cents of what it could in 1971. Meanwhile, U.S. debt exploded. In 1971, the federal debt was under $400 billion. Today, it has crossed $34 trillion. That's an increase of nearly 9,000%. And interest payments on that debt are now one of the largest expenses in the federal budget, projected to cross $1 trillion a year by the end of this decade. So what does that mean for ordinary families? Let's look at where we stand today. Credit card debt has hit an all-time record, more than $1.3 trillion in 2025. Household savings rates are near historic lows, under 4%. Mortgage rates hover around 7%, making homeownership a dream slipping away for millions. Healthcare premiums rise 6 to 7% every year, faster than wages. And the average American worker, adjusted for inflation, earns almost the same as they did 40 years ago. Costs rise, wages stall, families get squeezed. But this isn't the end of the story. The bigger danger is what's coming next. For decades, the strength of the dollar rested on one thing. It was the world's reserve currency. Nations traded oil, food, and raw materials in dollars. That meant demand for the dollar stayed strong. But now cracks are showing. China, Russia, and the BRICS nations are building alternatives to the US dollar for global trade. In 2024, BRICS announced a new payment system designed to bypass Western banks and the SWIFT network. Over 40 countries have expressed interest in joining. Saudi Arabia, the backbone of the petrodollar system since the 1970s, recently signed deals to sell oil in yuan and rupees. That is a direct challenge to the dollar's dominance. If the world shifts even part of its trade away from the dollar, the consequences for American families will be severe. Imports will become more expensive, everything from electronics to fuel to clothing. Inflation could surge again, worse than what we've seen in recent years. At the same time, demand for U.S. debt could shrink, forcing higher interest rates and heavier taxes at home. Some economists warn that by 2035, the middle class in America could shrink to under 40% of the population, down from 61% in 1971. That means fewer families able to afford homes, save for retirement, or send their kids to college. The very idea of a stable, comfortable middle-class life is at risk. And let's be clear, this isn't speculation. The warning signs are already visible. Inflation is not going away, debt is not shrinking, and the world is actively searching for alternatives to the dollar. So what does the future look like for middle-class families? Higher costs for basic necessities, less value in savings accounts, more pressure from taxes and debt, and a weaker dollar that buys less and less on the global market. The truth is simple. Inflation today is just the beginning. The bigger disaster is the potential decline of the dollar itself. And if that happens, it won't be Wall Street or Washington that suffers first. It will be ordinary families trying to hold on to the American dream. But here's the good news. While families can't control Washington or Wall Street, they can take steps to prepare. Here are 5 practical ways to cope with the storm ahead. 1. Cut high-interest debt. Pay down credit cards as fast as possible. Rising interest rates make debt far more dangerous. 2. Build an emergency fund. Even a few months of savings can shield you from shocks, like job loss or sudden inflation spikes. 3. Invest in real value. Consider hard assets like gold, silver, or even skills and education that hold value over time. 4. Avoid risky big loans. Be cautious about taking on long-term debt like new mortgages or car loans during uncertain times. 5. Strengthen income. Upskill, learn new trades, or build side incomes. The more income streams, the safer your family becomes. These steps won't stop inflation, but they can help protect families from the worst of what's coming. Because the reality is this: the system may change, the dollar may weaken, and debt may keep climbing. But middle-class families who prepare will always be stronger than those who don't. If you found this video important, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. The more people understand what's really happening and how to prepare for it, the better chance we all have to weather the storm.